Well, here we are in the UK into our fourth week of lockdown. I'm sure the world is in different phases of this, but most people are in some kind of constricted environment, not able to get out either at all or as much as they wanted to. And I'm beginning to sense a frustration among some. I'm being bombarded by questions about the way our government is handling this and the way they're communicating it to us. This empty office that you see behind me is typical all over the country, all over the world. There are empty offices where things are not getting done. People are working from home and there's some value in that. But for lots of people, they're not quite as focused as they might be, and businesses are not expanding and developing, taking on new contracts. Most things are in a kind of plateau mode, which is bad for the economy. And in the end, quite bad for human beings. So this is a tricky time, and I think patience is wearing a bit thin for all sorts of people. And when that happens, people become critical and negative, and questions fly everywhere. Of course, governments don't always help themselves in this. They keep saying this is a war on this virus. But we all know that the first casualty of war is truth. And it's pretty clear that almost no government is being entirely transparent or candid with their people. Sometimes there's good reason for that. They don't want to create fear or panic. It's tricky to be a leader. What should you disclose and what not? So today I want us to pray for our leaders, even if we're thinking they're not doing a very good job, even if we're thinking there are all sorts of questions we'd like answers to, but we don't have them yet. In the first century world, Jesus was constantly rubbing up against authority, Roman and Jewish, was constantly not challenging the Romans, but rendering to Caesar that which was for Caesar, and behaving himself with great respect towards the state. Though, of course, at the end, with Pilate, he reminds Pilate that he couldn't have any authority had God not given it to him. So there's a balance there in the attitude of Jesus. Most first century Christians operated in a deeply oppressive world where the state was certainly antagonistic to the Christian faith, fledgling as it was. So Paul, writing his pastoral letters to Timothy and Titus, encourages prayer for leaders. Here's what he says to Titus, and it's a helpful word for us today. Remind the people, this is Titus chapter 3, to be subject to rulers and authorities, to be obedient, and to be ready to do whatever is good, to slander no one, to be peaceable, considerate, always gentle towards everyone. So our job, even if we have questions now, and I'm sure there'll be more as these days go by, is to be gentle in our dealings with others, and particularly if we want to write to our Member of Parliament or write to the Prime Minister with a concern, a question or a complaint, to make sure those letters and those questions are gentle and peaceable. And remember, it's a terribly difficult job being a leader of any kind. So join with Paul's commitment to Titus to be subject to these leaders, to be obedient where we can, to be prayerful for them in the decisions that they make. Yes, there are huge questions emerging about how we've handled this in the West, about how we're being treated. Here in the UK, we have what's becoming almost a humorous, nearly robotic exercise night by night as three wise people, a government minister and a medical person, a scientific person, do their best to avoid answering any questions at all, straightforwardly and transparently, make a statement and then just keep repeating things as if they say it often enough, we'll believe it or understand it. If I hear the phrase, we're just following the science once more, I might scream at the TV screen. We know there's no such thing. Scientists in Britain disagree about how we should act. Never mind scientists from all over the world. We're living in a very confused situation. And I would hope that as time goes on, the government will feel more secure, because no government, Labour, Conservative, no government of any stripe would have handled this any better. So I hope they will have the confidence to admit mistakes, to change their mind, to be ready to adapt to circumstances. Because generally speaking, people respond well to transparency, genuine transparency and openness. And so today, with all these questions swirling around about lockdown and why it's not ending and are we doing the right thing, and people getting quite agitated, remember to be peaceable and gentle. And remember, our leaders are only human. And let's pray for them, that despite everything, God will guide and his will and purpose will be done in our world through the leaders that we have.